Great. So we have an hour. I hope for a very lively discussion. This morning we will try to cover the subject is the multinational companies and its activity in Israel. And before we start, I've collected some facts about the activity, the total activity of the multinationals. Each one of the panelists sees his own company, but altogether, it's I believe it's a substantial that has a substantial effect on the economy. So I believe that per capita, or relatively to the GDP, the activity of the multinational companies in Israel is the highest in the world. Altogether, we have 132,000 employees that work there. The total production of these companies is about $30 billion a year. In the last decade, the activity went up by 144%. We have, you can't believe it, we have 264 centers of R&D in Israel, of foreign companies, almost all of it in the center area, some of it in Haifa. The patent applicants that was actually that was presented or asked in the last decade. Can you guess how much is it altogether? It's almost 10,000. And the wage or the salary in these companies, in average, is 50% higher compared to the Israeli R&D companies. So no doubt that we are talking about a phenomenon, a very interesting one, and we will try to see from the perspective of our panelists, how do they see it. So what I would like to start, really, a very short presentation of each one of them, not more than a minute. The company, its activity in Israel, and something about yourself, while trying to rank the three main advantages that you see in the activity of Israel, the strengths of Israel in this respect, and also maybe to rank the three burden or liabilities that you can see in Israel, or concerns that you have. Meir, let's start with you.
Hi everyone, good morning. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm Meir, and I've been at Google for 9 years now, and started with the role of setting up our operations in Israel. I now run a cluster that includes all of Africa and Greece, and most of my management team today also covers different various areas in Europe. So we became from an Israeli focus center to a kind of a regional center, if you want. What do we do in Israel? Basically, we have an R&D center that focuses on the core competencies of Google, particularly search, which is one of the most important, obviously, areas at Google. Another big area for the R&D center is maps, with the acquisition of Waze. On the business side, we focus a lot on the ecosystem, on the Israeli ecosystem, and pushing exports by helping startups market their products, develop their products on global platforms, and monetize their products on global platforms. So that's quickly about Google and about myself. What else did you ask? The three top reasons why companies come to Israel. I think first of all it's for the superb engineering talent, which is not only strong academically and from a cognitive ability point, but also very entrepreneurial and very creative. The second thing I think is broader than engineering talent. It's about the ecosystem. Israel today is known to be the second most strongest startup ecosystem in the world. At least this is what Silicon Valley says after the Silicon Valley. And I think this is probably the most important thing we need to talk about when we talk about the role of multinationals in Israel, etc. It's part of this special ecosystem that has VCs and funding and angel investing on one hand, education centers on the other hand, multinationals on the other part, and startups. And there's a lot of symbiosis, if you want, going on between all these different parts. And then the third thing that I think is most interesting from the past few years is that I see multinationals starting to look at Israel not only as a pool for engineering talent, but for leadership. And this is why I think Google has started to put here people on the management side that oversee other countries and other clusters. On the negative side, what might be the problem? That's the question?
Maybe we'll touch it later.
Later, okay, let's touch it later.
Arik, your turn.
Hi everyone, Arik, Mimran from Qualcomm Israel. I run the Israeli site here. A few words about Qualcomm. Not everyone know Qualcomm, so a few words about that. So Qualcomm actually is today the largest fabless company, chip maker in the world. $130 billion company seated in California, in San Diego. That's where the headquarters is. We do chips for smartphones, obviously. My bet is that if you have a smartphone in your pocket, it probably contains a device of Qualcomm. So that's the company. Our operation in Israel started more than 20 years ago. We were the first actually international office outside of the US. Ever since we're doing R&D here in Israel. Mainly development around security. That's one large activity we have at the office. Then emerging from acquisitions that we did here in Israel, so we're now picking up with activity of the next generation of Wi-Fi, 11AD, if you're familiar with it. And then also we own all the interfaces across the chips. So every chip that ships out of Qualcomm actually consists of a significant area of silicon coming from our Israeli office, multiplies by actually close to 1 billion chips a year. These are the numbers. So to add on top of what you just said, why to come to Israel? So first of all, talent is definitely the first answer that I'd give. Also, the level and the concentration of talents that I think multinationals can find here, and not only, but can find here in Israel is by far, I think, above other places. I can say why not come to Israel. It's not because of our low cost, right? That's not the place to come for, and that's not the way I position myself. If you want to come and get engineers and talents from my office, it's not because of the cost. Then I think one other attribute that is unique to us is a can-do attitude. There you see it. And I see it, and every time I speak with my VP colleagues in San Diego, I would hear, even if there's sometimes different teams at different sites, we want to come to you because you guys first say, yes, we'll do that, and then think how. Others sometimes tend to first push back, and then if you come and beg again, maybe they'll do something. So I think.
Thank you. Guy.
Hi, Yarom, thanks for inviting us. So Deutsche Telekom, how many people here are not familiar with Deutsche Telekom? Wow. Actually, it's funny, when I hand out a card or when I point to our logo, people say, oh, so you were acquired by T-Mobile. So let's put things in context. Deutsche Telekom is a large multinational telecommunication company. It's actually a holding company. T-Mobile belongs to us, as well as some other known and less known communication companies and brands worldwide. So about 240,000 employees, operations, mobile, fixed, TV, and others in 14 countries, and a very significant integration, managed services, and consultancy business spanning most of the countries on the globe, which people typically are not aware of. In Israel, we have started an R&D, or let's say an R, a very deep core research activity in a city that you did not mention when you named the areas where innovation takes place, Be'er Sheva. So proud to be the probably the first multinational that actually set foot in Be'er Sheva, and we can go on and say that we invented the cyber city, or whatever they call that now. We're not going to have a competition with Prime Minister Netanyahu, who invented Be'er Sheva as a cyber city, but we had activities there in the cybersecurity space for the past 10 years. And on top of that, big data and big data analytics, both of those before the terms and names were coined. And 2 years ago, I was brought on board in order to start a business activity. So partnering, venturing, and additional business activities, not driven out of Be'er Sheva. And that's as part of Deutsche Telekom's understanding to your question that there are additional benefits in Israel other than talent. We're going to be talking about talent and the talent pool, and whether Israel is doing all it can do to maintain this level and intensity of talent generation. For Deutsche Telekom, as a German multinational, being close in spirit to the German way of doing business and thinking was important. And unbelievably, Germans and Israelis share a lot and have a lot in common. Especially, it's not just the can-do approach. I wouldn't say Germans are about can-do, but it's the heads-on, straightforward, hard talk, everything on the table, no secrets. Well, Germans are a bit more, I'd say, refined in the way they position their state of mind. We're very direct, too direct sometimes, but I think that's something that Germans and other nationals appreciate about Israelis. We just put everything out there. And there's another thing, location. And I'm not talking about the Middle East, I'm talking about Europe. So Israel is closer and more accessible, same time zone, more or less, as Europe, which basically means that if you want to talk to an engineer, you want to talk to a product person, just pick up the phone or take a plane. If you don't care about the exit part, which we're going to talk about later, then it's easier and much more accessible than the US. And of course, talent was and will be said by everyone else. Thank you.
Thank you. Gil, what good for GM is good for America. The question is if what good for GM is good for Israel.
Okay, this is a pretty challenging statement, but let me take the next minute or two just to introduce the industry here, since we are still, fortunately and unfortunately, the only player in the market here. But I would say that the next 5 years there will be at least a handful of other OEMs moving. I just met with our competitors yesterday, and there are constant multinationals from our industry coming, and there's a good reason for that. First, the automotive industry, it's an amazing industry, an outstanding and most exciting time right now. We are in inflection point. In fact, after 100 years of accumulated knowledge, the auto industry is reinventing itself and transforming itself into a company that deals with technologies and talent that was not part of their core, And if you wish, we are designing and manufacturing machines that are way more intelligent and connected than ever before. And our industry is highly regulated, almost like the pharma industry. We deal with people's life. On the other hand, it's a capital-intensive industry. It's a barrier to other players to get in. You need billions of dollars to start activities. So this is what basically represent the auto industry. On one hand, we have growing government regulation. On the other hand, we've got our end user and customer that would like to get consumer electronics like experience on 4 wheels. So we have a pull from this side. We have a push from the government to apply more technology. And in between, we've got the technology that's evolving in very fast pace. And now you're going to design a vehicle in unprecedented pace for our industry. Now, GM, our global marketplace is about 70 million vehicles a year. GM has about 12% of the global market, means every 1 out of 8 vehicles, it's actually General Motors. We are represented, or we are active over the 140 countries. And basically, since the industry is moving from traditional technologies to a non-traditional technologies to be integrated into our product, Israel is in an outstanding place to be here and to actually tap to this talent. What we cover in our facility is basically the non-traditional technologies like smart sensing, cybersecurity, UX, or infotainment, telematics, connectivity to the cloud, wireless connection inside the cabin. So a lot of activities all are here. So this is about GM and what we do here. With respect to why GM is in Israel from the first place, first we moved in 1995. We were under the screen until 2008. I moved from the States in 2008 to start the official establishment of General Motors here. But the reason that we are here is it's really the talent. The access to the top talent on one hand, and what comes with it means the innovative thinking and entrepreneurial culture. This is one. Second, it's actually the ecosystem that comes with it in Israel. In a very small place, you've got a strong academic base, you've got a VC community, you've got startup community, you've got multinationals. And on top of that, we tend to underestimate the government here, but I would like to say that the Israeli government wants one of the most flexible government when it comes to multinational, especially the tailored program for multinational. I think this is a great pool to bring new multinational to Israel.